Welcome back to Key Point. We're live on TV3 Ghana, on Facebook, DSTV, channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. We're live on 3FM 92.7 as well. Apologies to those who sent messages we couldn't read for the first conversation. I'm seeing that a number of you are sending messages that we should do well to read. But we have close to over 600 messages. We cannot read all. So please forgive me that we cannot read the messages. But I still have Sam Nate George with me, Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram, Deputy Ranking Member of the Communications Committee of Parliament, George Anda, former Deputy Minister of Communications, and the parliamentary candidate, he sought to contest indeed to get into Parliament in 2020 for the people of Ewutu Senya West. And he's been receiving a lot of greetings, which he says he has to say shout outs to them this morning. And then also, let me welcome Dr. Smart Sapong. He is a political science lecturer, in fact, and the research fellow at the Kumasi Technical University, also connecting with us on Zoom. Dr. Smart Sapong, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. Okay, we'll rectify that connection. But
yes, good morning.
Great. This week, the Speaker of Parliament was expected to make a pronouncement on the recommendations by the Privileges Committee of Parliament. Remember, we gave you that exclusive information from our parliamentary correspondent, Komla Kluche, about the split decision by the Privileges Committee on whether or not the Dom Kwabenya seat should be declared vacant. The minority side of the Privileges Committee were against the decision to declare the Dom Kwabenya seat vacant because, according to them, it would be against the natural law of justice because the Dom Kwabenya MP, Sarah Adwoa Safo, has not been heard, or her side of the story has not been heard. The majority side of the Privileges Committee says, look, we've given her a number of instances and opportunities to have her story heard, but she did not take advantage of that. So declare the seat vacant. This is what the Speaker of Parliament did to defer that decision to October. Take a look.
Old lady. The old lady has given me an advice, and I think that advice is correct, because the issue raised by the majority leader is both of substantive and procedural law, and I need time to submit to this House a reasoned written ruling. I cannot, in the haste of today, give you the ruling. In the circumstances, I will urge this House for us to call it a day. On return, I will deliver the written ruling. So I will proceed, looking at the time to adjourn the proceedings after you have listened to the closing remarks.
Well, so that's the Speaker, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagman there. So that decision deferred to October. I'll find out from Mr. Sam George whether, with the likes of the Deputy Majority Leader saying that the Speaker did not necessarily have to state his position or declare a ruling on this, but the position of the committee in terms of their recommendations should have been applied. Well, but the old lady advised to the contrary. The same day, that evening, the President communicated his decision to sack Adwoa Safo as Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection after that period of her absence. Some say it's long overdue. But how is all of this playing out in her constituency as well? We'll go there. Mr. George, should or did the Speaker have to necessarily put out a ruling or a decision on this, or the committee's decision should have just been communicated without the necessary Speaker himself having a position on it, as some of your colleagues have argued?
Interesting developments in the House on Thursday. Interesting because I'm no veteran of Parliament. I'm in my sixth year there, but in the 6 years I've been in Parliament, I have seen several referrals made by Mr. Speaker to committees. When Mr. Speaker makes a referral to committee, my understanding, and currently I serve on the leadership of one committee in Parliament, is that our report is the recommendation of the committee to the plenary. And so take, for example, when the president makes his appointments, he nominates his appointees, and it's brought to Parliament, the Speaker would refer it to the Appointments Committee. The Appointments Committee would sit and vet those nominees. When they vet those nominees, they do a report. Where there is unanimity in approval, the report states that it is, and normally those reports, when you see the Appointment Committee reports, it's taken case by case. So in the case of George Anda, for example, you would see George Anda. There will be a brief profile. The committee will do a brief profile of him, how he fared in the vetting, and what the position of the committee is, their recommendation. So the committee recommends to the plenary to approve the president's appointment of naming George Anda as Deputy Minister for Communications. Take, for example, in the cases where there is no unanimous decision at the committee, they would state that there is a majority decision, but there was dissent. Again, even with those who have unanimous approval, the Speaker puts a question to the plenary, and the plenary debates it. We pass comments. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, in his instance, I commented on his nomination. You understand? The report of the Appointments Committee. So it is not that the Appointments Committee brought their report and then it was binding on the plenary. No. The plenary we engaged in a debate on the report of the committee and then go ahead to have either a voice vote, or in the case of, for example, recently, some of the ministers, was it Hawa Kumsin and Kojo Ponkruma and one other, we actually had a vote by division.
True.
So when the majority leader tried to espouse that argument, I asked, even though I didn't catch the eye of the Speaker, I asked him that, was this from Swami Law School? Because, I mean, if you are using the law that is taught at Makola, or maybe KJTI School of Law, or I don't know, or Swami School of Law, because this is alien to our understanding. When the Speaker was making the referral, again, if you go back to the referral of Mr. Speaker in his referral asked the Committee of Privileges to sit on the cases of the 3 members and report their findings to the plenary. That was the basis on which the committee was set up.
So it was at the instance of the Speaker?
Absolutely. Because so if the Speaker has asked you to go and do a job and report to the plenary, in fact, on the day the issue was raised, they asked the Speaker to declare her seat vacant. And the Speaker said, it doesn't rest in my power. And I'll tell you why. Article 97(1) of the Constitution. When you read Article 97(1) of the Constitution, 1D, a member of Parliament shall vacate his seat in Parliament. Sorry, 1C, 97(1)C. If he, and here it could also be she, is absent without the permission and please, I'll read this in a certain way because there are 2 legs, there are 2 conditions. First, if he is absent or she is absent, first, without the permission in writing of the Speaker, So if you are absent without the speaker's permission, it is assumed that the seat shall be made, you vacate your seat.
Right.
But it doesn't end there. It proceeds to add a qualification of the circumstances, and he is unable to offer a reasonable explanation to the Parliamentary Committee on Privileges from 15 sittings of a meeting of Parliament during any period that Parliament has been summoned to meet and continues to meet. So it means that there are two legs to this thing before the seat to be declared vacant. You have absented yourself for 15 days without a written permission of Mr. Speaker. But that does not automatically declare it vacant. The Constitution says the Privileges Committee must meet with you and have you give you a fair hearing, which is a fundamental principle of Ghana's legal jurisprudence.
And that's what they've been talking about.
The legal principle of audi alteram partem. You must hear the other side.
But if the other side, and this is what the majority has been saying, the other side has not taken advantage of all the opportunities given to her to be heard, the Zoom links, the phone calls, the emails, of the letters to her office, and she's heard on the media in an interview, but fails to respond to the committee's invitation. What should be done?
Well, valid points. Has invitation been extended to the member? In this case, the committee has shown evidence that they have communicated or sent communication to the person. Now, even in law, when you do contract law, you are told the principles by which you can say that the terms and conditions have been communicated. Do we have evidence of the communication from Parliament's committee reaching the intended recipient? Yes, a message may have been sent. Do we have evidence that the number to which the WhatsApp messages were sent is still a number that she's actively using? One question. Zoom link, email. Are we aware if she still has access to that email address? Second question. These are questions that do not in themselves absolve her also of a responsibility as a member of Parliament. Because do not forget, she's a member of Parliament with responsibilities to the people of Domin-Kwabenya. And so I in no way absolve her of her responsibilities to her constituents. But we are talking about the due process of law. We've seen advertisements in the dailies here in Ghana. Is the person within the Ghanaian jurisdiction such that you will say she has been able to see those advertorials? That's one. Two, let us, even for the purposes of this discussion, say that the steps taken to notify her are sufficient by the Privileges Committee. So long as she has not been given, she has not had her say before the Privileges Committee. The Privileges Committee is not in a position to suo motu on its own conviction, say that they are passing judgment on her. What the Privileges Committee must then do is to activate 97(1)D, because 97(1)C is what we read. 97(1)D forms the basis for expelling a member of Parliament if that person has been found to be guilty of contempt of Parliament by a committee of Parliament. Now, what is contempt of Parliament? Parliament issues a summons to you to appear before a committee, and you say, I will not come. Again, I can use the example of the Minister for Communications. When the Airtel Tigo sales happened, and I was on this platform and said that I am demanding and will summon her to appear. She granted an interview and said she wouldn't appear. She appeared because she didn't want to be held in contempt. Because immediately she said she won't do it, I started proceedings to hold her in contempt of Parliament. Because when a parliamentary committee summons you, you must appear. So, and she did appear because the Minister of Communications was minded by the Constitution. She's a lawyer. Adwoa Safo is a lawyer. So if the committee has invited her, and the committee believes that they have done everything within the remit of the law, the reasonable man test, the objective test will show that they have done what the objective man would be expected of an objective man. Their report to the plenary should be that we are recommending that the speaker cites Adwoa Safo for contempt of Parliament. And then that proceedings would then be held by the Privileges Committee, and the plenary would take a decision to declare her seat vacant,
and not
on the basis of the absence, because on that one you've not heard her case. Right. The Constitution says you must hear the person. The person must give you a reason. If that reason is unsatisfactory, declare the seat vacant. In the cases of Kennedy Japan and Harry Cote, they have given reasonable reasons or excuses why they were absent. The committee says it makes sense, so we won't declare their seat vacant. So that's why we are saying automatically missing 15 days does not declare your seat vacant. Else, if that's the case, Odikro has done on the 33 MPs have missed more than 15 days. So then we should automatically declare all of those seats. 30 of them are MPP MPs, 3 of them are NDC MPs. Let's declare all of them. That's the logic Chairman Zambonsu is espousing. So the point here is we are a house of law. We are a house of rules. If she has, and like I said, she has a responsibility. She's earning a salary. She's not working for her salary. But we cannot say because she is doing the wrong thing, Parliament as an institution will also do the wrong thing. We must follow due process. Else she will go to court tomorrow, and the court will hold that Parliament failed to follow the constitutional provisions.
So for you, your opposition to this recommendation for the seat to be declared vacant is just on the basis of procedural. The committee should have recommended that she is in contempt of the committee. Then the process would then land
then we
into
begin
whether or not
contempt proceedings against the other Privileges Committee. Simple.
Dr. Safo, I bring you in your take on this, and then Mr. Georganda. Dr. Safo. Yes.
Yes, Alfred. Good morning once again, and a very good morning to the colleagues in the studio. Cherished viewers, wherever they are. I've heard the Honourable Member of Parliament, my good friend from afar, and he seems to be making a lot of good points in respect of the position of their procedure in Parliament and the position of the law. He read very relevant articles to support his stand. To the people of Dom Kabenya and to the general citizenry, we would go by the thin line between legality and morality, legality and responsibility. So that she is a lawyer, perhaps she is aware of all the relevant articles Honorable Sam George just made mention of, and she's waiting for somebody to sidestep the law and act in any way that the courts may reverse decisions of Parliament and all those things. But my first point is that she should be mindful of the thin line between legality and morality, or legality and responsibility, so that if within the remits of the laws she hasn't committed any offense, she's not wrong, she should quickly be reminded of morality. And Honorable Sam George mentioned same that people at Dom Kabenya may not be happy about the fact that she is still within the remits of the law, as against the responsibility, the oath she has taken to be there for them, the oath she has taken to represent them in Parliament, the role she has taken to serve the general citizenry by her contributions on matters that concerns all of us that appears before the House. So my first point is that yes, legally, Speaker has done the right thing by not admitting to the request to have her sacked. They are still within their operations as Parliament. We grant them that. When they return from recess, the committee or Parliament may look at the whole matter again. We want to ask them or plead with them to not only be happy about the fact that legally there's nothing wrong, she's not been given opportunity to be heard and all those things, but quickly care about the moral responsibility that we, the citizens, expect from her and the general public. Number two, the fact that you reach, and he makes mention, unfortunately, my law is not as good as that of Sam George, but I know means by getting to somebody who is being invited to appear before an investigatory body or whatever, once the communique is sent, whether through electronic means, and we have lost that even guys electronic transactions here in Ghana. Once it sends and it is deemed to have been sent, the position of the law is that directly it is assumed the person has received it. So if I send you WhatsApp and I check later and I see it ticked blue or something, it is assumed you have received it. Whether you reply me or not is another matter. So Parliament, I'm not sure, would get to this point without making attempts to reach her.
So it is that evidence that Mr. George talked about earlier. So if the committee or the MPP side of the committee
and
has...
we heard in the past, Honorable Kennedy Japan mentioned, yes. And can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I just wanted you to hold on to that point about the evidence that, for instance, the Privileges Committee of Parliament should have, that in all these attempts to get to her, they use WhatsApp. They indicated WhatsApp in that report. If, in your view, as the law provides, if he had ticked blue, means that it has been seen, then if they provide that evidence, then on the basis of that, you can have a comment. But, Ms. Zanda, I'll bring you in at this point, and then also we'll connect to the other guests on Zoom, of how these things playing out in Parliament and how this impacts on the constituents as well.
So I think as far as her responsibility as a minister is concerned, I believe the information out there was that she had sought permission from His Excellency the President on compassionate grounds, and that was granted. Now, the President has the powers to appoint and to remove, and based on the information that is available to him, I mean, the decision that he takes is not something that can be challenged. So I believe that as far as her removal from office as a gender minister is concerned, there's no debate about that discussion. And also the fact that even when she was away on compassionate leave, there was a caretaker minister that was acting in her stead, in line with the provisions of the Constitution. And obviously, the ministry was not in any way affected as far as its deliverables or its performance are concerned, because there was a caretaker minister there.
Well, I spoke to a member of the Gender Committee of Parliament who said that as the first quarter of 2022, that ministry did not receive a city of allocations, and they were run solely, the operations of that committee was run, the ministry was run solely on donor funding. And they traced that to the absence of the minister to, for instance, go in, push for some of these allocations, because that minister who was acting in her stead had her hands full with the sanitation and water resources ministry.
I mean, this is something that somebody has told you. There's no facts to it, so I don't think that we should even debate it. I mean, that is not part of the discussion that we're having here. Now, on the issue of her position as a member of Parliament and the matters arising, the clause that my colleague, my MP, read. Let me reread that clause, the Article 97(1)(c) of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana. A member of Parliament shall vacate his or her seat if he or she is absent without the permission in writing of the Speaker, and she is unable to offer a reasonable explanation to the Parliamentary Committee on Privileges from 15 sittings of a meeting of Parliament during any period that Parliament has been summoned to meet and continues to meet. Now, this is provided for in the Constitution, and it states that there's the work of the Privileges Committee to determine whether indeed the person has been absent for Parliament for 15 sitting days. I don't think that is the same situation like a vetting, where when the president makes a nomination, the appointments committee is required to vet the nominee, bring a report to the plenary, and then a vote, or there can be a debate or a vote there. Here it states clearly that
she's unable to offer, or she's unable to offer
yes,
reasonable
so
explanation
it is for the Parliamentary Committee on Privileges to make that determination.
whether the explanation is reasonable or otherwise.
Exactly. You understand? It's clear in the Constitution. Now, you see, the reason why people go to court is that my interpretation could be different from his interpretation. Okay? As at the time that I make an interpretation, the information available to me informs me that this is the right thing to do. He is making a determination based on the information or his interpretation of the information. So then you need a higher body to make a declaration as to which of us is right. So the minority position that is being put out there, okay, is based on their interpretation. Their interpretation. Okay, my position is aligned to what the majority position is. Okay, which places the responsibility of determining whether the person is in breach of that condition, of that provision, on the Parliamentary Select Committee. So if the Parliamentary Select Committee make a determination, I don't think that it has to come for a debate on the floor. In this particular case, where it comes to a member of Parliament vacating his or her seat. Now, is there evidence that the Parliamentary Select Committee had gone the extra mile to serve her notice of her being required? Okay, some did mention there was a publication in newspapers. There were WhatsApp messages that were sent. There were messages sent to her secretariat. The messages sent by email. Okay, and there was even provision that was made that under the circumstances, if you cannot be physically present, okay, let us do this via Zoom. Okay, so I believe that all those opportunities were created. The impression that comes out is that the Parliamentary Select Committee has been ignored. Okay, now, like the previous panelist said, you can't keep on putting the burden on the Parliamentary Select Committee because the person that they need to talk to is not making herself available. I mean, what channels have been made to reach her? And there's enough evidence that a lot has been made to reach her. So I think that, yes, there are different opinions on this matter. My personal view is aligned with the position of the majority. And I believe that when Mr. Speaker comes, when the House resumes, he'll make the right determination, and the people of Kwabenya will be able to have an MP to serve their interest.
Well, so is Adwoa Safo serving the interest of the Kwabenya constituency?
But at the moment, because she's not available, I mean, you had said that somebody mentioned.
We understand that she's in the country now, but that we're yet to verify.
You had said that somebody mentioned to you that the ministry was facing some challenges because of her absence. I don't know. I don't think that is true because there was a caretaker minister there. But obviously, as far as the constituents are concerned, I mean, when Sam George doesn't go to the constituency one weekend, I mean, he can tell you the number of people that will be unhappy.
On the basis of 97(1)(c) that you quote,
yes,
the reasonability of the explanation, yes, will be determined by the Privileges Committee. In this case, she did not, or she has not even been heard for the Privileges Committee to even determine whether her explanation is reasonable or otherwise.
Yes.
So, and the point that Sam George was making, that why not cite her for contempt of the committee because she did not attend to the committee's invitations, and rather recommend the seat be declared vacant?
Well, I mean, there are two things, okay, and the C comes before the D. Okay, if you don't make yourself available to convince the committee or to explain to the committee, and the impression that is out there is that you are on other platforms and you are talking to the media. Okay, the impression is that you are displaying a bit of spite towards the committee. Okay, and it's not for the committee to keep on waiting until you are ready. I think it's been four occasions, right? Sam, please confirm me if I'm wrong. There's been 3 or 4 occasions where the committee have made themselves available through both physical and virtual meetings, and the honourable member hasn't availed herself, or provided reasons why she hasn't been able to avail herself, or provided reasons why she wasn't able to be in Parliament. So based on the information and the evidence available to the committee makes this determination. The matter is whether the committee's recommendation becomes the right thing to do, okay, or it has to be debated in Parliament. Okay, and I think that this article is clear that the committee will make a determination, and that becomes what should happen.
Mr. George, so how much of a cost would it be? I mean, I've heard you talk about a possible tsunami if Adwoa Safo decides to speak. If, for instance, in October, the Speaker comes and says, because of the evidence, and you talk about evidence by the Committee of Privileges, that we tried all these means to get to her, she did not take advantage of it. She's in contempt of the Privileges Committee, and so the processes should kick in to have her seat declared vacant.
I would not want to preempt Mr. Speaker's ruling. Mr. Speaker says he's going to deliver a reasoned ruling. Mr. Speaker is a lawyer of outstanding repute in many years, and so I would look forward to his ruling in October. But one key point I want to make here is this. Fundamentally, we don't disagree. I don't disagree with George on whether the committee has taken all the necessary reasonable steps to get, and with Doc,
I think that point is clear.
I agree with that steps have been taken. And that's why I introduced 97(1)(d). That said, what the committee should then do is let the plenary know that you refer again, like I said, the committee only acted upon the referral of Mr. Speaker. So the committee cannot say that they will not report back to Speaker. In fact, the referral asks them to report back to the plenary. So you would report with your findings to the plenary, but let's always bear in mind, no finding of a committee is binding on the plenary. The plenary always has the power. And there have been instances, I serve on the Public Accounts Committee, there have been times we've made recommendations in our public accounts reports after sitting. The plenary has disagreed with us, either struck things out or increased punitive measures or introduced new things. So committee reports are always subject to a debate from plenary. This whole attempt to bring, so I mean, are we saying that tomorrow the Communications Committee can decide that we're inviting the telcos and decide that we're inviting the minister? And if the committee at this meeting decides that the issues of the SIM card registration are not binding, and the committee has a uniform position or a majority position that says that the SIM card registration should be extended till January next year, and we bring it to Parliament, it automatically becomes the voice of Parliament? No. It is a recommendation of a committee of Parliament. The Constitution is specific in 97(1)(c) that the Privileges Committee should hear the person, the principle of audio alteram partem, hear the person and make your recommendations. Now they've not been able to hear the person, and not due to a fault of the committee. The committee should trigger 97(1)(d) and say we have not been able to make a determination, especially when you don't have a consensus. We've not been able to make a determination because this person has not availed themselves. So this person is in contempt of Parliament. And then let Parliament trigger its contempt proceedings against her. And then that is a different issue. When it comes to contempt, whether the person appears or not, the committee can reach a determination. But because when you read 97(1)(d), it does not give a requirement of the person to make an appearance or not. And that's why persons who in the past have been held in contempt of Parliament and decided not to even appear, Parliament passed a ruling and subsequently they had to come apologizing and all of that. So it is those points that we need to make, that committees of Parliament, let's not give committees of Parliament powers they don't have. Where committees will go and make a determination and we say that the plenary should not have a say in it. That is a very dangerous precedent for us to set.
But I think this is a different situation, because the powers in this particular instance as to whether MP's seat should be declared vacant because of their absence, it's clear, okay, that once the committee makes a determination, okay, I mean, that's what it is.
Has the committee made a determination?
You report to
So that's whether the committee has made a determination or otherwise.
Well, the committee's report is clear, isn't it? The committee's report is clear, and there's nowhere in this provision in the Constitution that says that on this matter the matter should be debated on the floor. That's why I'm saying that. There are two opinions on this matter. You understand? Based on how you look at it, you can see a glass to be half full or half empty.
We'll see what
I can see a glass to be half full or half empty. You understand? I'm strong in my position because I'm not convinced that this matter needs to be debated on the floor.
Okay.
I believe that the recommendation of the committee is what it is. And the speaker will make a ruling on it.
We'll see what the old lady will tell the speaker. But these are the constituents of Dom Kwabenya who have also been sharing their thoughts on their member of parliament and all the issues happening around here. Let's go to the constituency now.
They do in the constituency. So far as Dom Kwabenya, is supportive of anything they do.
Personally, I think I don't see much of her. I don't see much of her. So if you get somebody who can do the work, as for me, I've given up on her already.
Adwoa Safo awa be yebi. Onipa be yebi wa me ye ni nyina.
Adwoa is tired. She should rest for my Akufo Jr. to come.
Makrikwe ban. Wamra me toa so. Yenim so da so te so. Enti no se on ka se wa sorry a obi ama.
She should step down. We are pleading with her. Dom market is in a bad state.
Now no me ya market ya mayen.
Eni esre no. On tie no fe seat ne nto ho. Na de obeba beto aso no. Obi nso beto aso no so on hwe ne ba no.
She should have time for her children, after which she can come back later for a seat.
But see the Dome constituency, ye hia moa.
And the parliament for Canada, Yajutum.
We agreed to carry any decision from Parliament. We voted for her to be here.
A few people, however, think she should be given more time.
I think
the party needs to sit her down. They should give her more time.
I think they
should organize a forum or maybe a committee so that she will come around and they will ask her whether she wants to leave her work as a parliamentarian, so that they will give the seat to someone else to
So those were some of the concerns of Dom Kwabenya sharing their thoughts on what's happening to the member of parliament, their views as to whether she should be replaced or the seat be declared vacant or otherwise. By October, we'll get to know what the old lady has told the Speaker of Parliament. But Professor David Abdullahi is a senior advisor, Africa Parliamentarian Network Against Corruption. He also joins me on Zoom. I still have Dr. Smart Sapong also with me. Professor David Abdullahi, good morning to you. And you've been listening to my guest in studio talk about what the position of the law is, the recommendations of the committee, the split decisions, and what the Speaker has decided to do, deferring his decision to October. But in your view and how things have played out in Parliament, how does all of this impact on especially the quality of representation by members of parliament? Professor Abdullahi.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. I couldn't catch all of your conversations, but the tail end, what I have seen and what I've heard is that I think it is sad that at this particular stage in our democratic development, that leaders who are voted to represent people are really neglecting their duty. The Honorable Adwoa Safo had been a leader in Parliament. I think she was previously Deputy Speaker. So she knows the standing orders of our Parliament as well as 97(1)(c). I think if it is anything at all, in this day and age, you cannot say you never received any invitation to meet the Privileges Committee. So in my opinion, I think that in itself doesn't speak of good leadership. I am not a constituent of Domi Kwabenya, but from what I've heard, I think there is a general call out there for her either to step down or to give the opportunity for others so that she can really concentrate on her family. So I think there is a need to relook at our leadership. Why do people go to Parliament? Do they have ulterior motives? If you are there to serve your people, you would be there when they need you.
I see. Now, but this is the position of this split decision is what my guests have been talking about. Minority thinks,
Yes.
On the basis of procedure, let the procedure just work so that, yes, she may have been in contempt of the Privileges Committee because of all the instances, the opportunities given to her to appear, and the Privileges Committee going beyond itself to try and get her to also at least tell her side of the story. That was not taken advantage of. The majority thinks that, look, declare the seat vacant. Minority believes the natural laws of justice must apply. How do you react to these instances that we've seen?
Yes, procedures are very important, but anytime you disrespect the highest lawmaking body in our country, procedures should be put aside because they have at least gone to the Privileges Committee, and the Privileges Committee had decided and recommended. And that's it's supposed to be. Now, whatever it is amongst the majority and minority, they can come to a consensus. And if that consensus is not reached, then it is the responsibility of the Speaker to step in and make a decision for the benefit of everybody. But I don't think one person can hold the whole Parliament to ransom. The others had already appeared, and as you know,
Professor Abdullahi, yes, unfortunately, we lost the audio there. But we'll take this quick break. We'll come back and we'll round up the conversation here on Key Point. Professor David Abdullahi is still with me, together with Dr. Smart Sapon. So we'll be back shortly. This is Key Point on TV3, on 3FM 92.7 as well. Welcome back to Key Point. We're live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and 3FM 92.7 as well. And Professor David Abdullahi, Senior Advisor, Africa Parliamentarian Network Against Corruption, is still with me on Zoom. Professor Abdullahi, you were making a point before I lost your audio there about the procedures that the minority is raising, and then also the decision or the position by the majority in Parliament about Adwoa Safo. Yes.
Yes, I was saying that I think it is important that procedures must be followed. However, I'm saying at the end of the day, if they cannot reach a consensus, then the Speaker must step in and make his decision. But I think listening to the tail end of what my colleagues on your show were saying, I think the Speaker has already agreed to think about it or to look into it and give a decision after their break. So as it is at now, let's wait and see. But I was saying that the Honorable Adwoa Safo had been a leader in Parliament. She knows the rules. So, I mean, I think this idea of procedures, even though they are important, I think it's more about politics. And my take is that I think probably the minority doesn't want to do the dirty job for the majority. So that is basically it. But no one is willing to come out and say that. If not, it is very clear, as the Privileges Committee has made their decision and they have reported back, then action should be taken.
No, and so this also goes to impact on the larger conversation of the representational role of Parliament. That's one of the three major roles of members of Parliament. And within the same period, odikro.com, that has been doing this consistently, checking the absenteeism of members of Parliament, put out 33 MPs who have absented themselves beyond this 15 days allowable period with permission from the Speaker of Parliament. So how this plays out, Prof, obviously will impact on whether or not this phenomenon or this behavior we've seen on the part of members of Parliament absenting themselves beyond the 15 days will continue, because it's going to serve as a deterrent, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I agree with you. And I think it must serve as a deterrent, because you know what? For far too long in our part of the world, most people accept positions, or when they are voted into positions, they do not do what they are supposed to do. They don't deliver. And it's about time. Ghanaians are becoming much more nuanced, and they understand that if you don't deliver, there's time for you to go. If you listen to what the constituents were saying, some of them said, look, you have done your part, you cannot do it all, give somebody that opportunity. I think honorably she should step down herself without having Parliament to decide.
Let me welcome Mr. Theo Ansa. Theo Ansa is a Constituency Secretary of Dom Kwabenya. That's the NPP Constituency Secretary for Dom Kwabenya. Mr. Ansa, good morning. Hello, Mr. Ansa, good morning.
Yes, good morning, sir. I can hear you, sir.
Great. So what's the position of the NPP Dom Kwabenya constituency on Sarah Adwoa Safo and how things are playing out in Parliament now?
What we'll say here is that it's unfortunate whatever is happening now. It is very, very, very unfortunate. But my problem is that Honorable Adwoa Safo is not a new entrant as far as parliamentary positions are concerned. She's an experienced person. She's been a leader of Parliament at the majority caucus before, and she knows what is expected of an MP. If you have challenges which you deem to be private or personal, I think the best way is to have managed it such that it will be a win-win affair. You win and the party wins. But you don't have to win for the party to suffer. Because, we are having a hung parliament now. 137. And an experienced politician of her caliber should not bring such a thing on herself. She hasn't been fair to herself. She hasn't been fair to the party. She hasn't been fair to the constituency. In as much as we are praying for her to stay in Parliament and stay opposed as a minister and a cabinet minister as such, the character she's putting up now doesn't depict one of such. So I will say our president has been so much tolerant and patient for all this while, because the bashing the president has been getting all over through the media and whatever. I think she has taken the right step. There's no two ways about that. And the party supports the president in whichever decision he has taken. And again, the party is fully behind the leadership, our leadership in Parliament, to make sure NPP moves on in Dom Kwabenya.
So the NPP Dom Kwabenya constituency supports the position by the majority in Parliament that the seats should be declared vacant. Adwoa Safo should be expelled from Parliament.
That hasn't been our prayer. We've always prayed that she comes. But it has lingered on far too long. And politics is serious business. Ghanaians are expectant. They expect us to deliver. And for that matter, whosoever draws us back should be set aside so we can deliver. Because, she has a role to play in the constituency. She has a role to play on behalf of the constituency in Parliament. So why should it be so? why should you not inform members you're working with in Parliament and in constituency what your challenges are, what your problems are? What even went on with the invitation with what do you call it? Privileges committee was even disrespectful.
I see.
So disrespectful. It's not fair.
Thank you very much.
And we must go on. We must move on as a party.
Thank you very much for your time. Professor Abdullah, in a minute. So even the constituency, that's the NPP in the Dom Kwabena constituency, appear to have given up on Adwoa Safo. They are on the side of the majority MPs in Parliament that the seat should be declared vacant.
Yes, I agree with you. I think the gentleman was also talking about the ministerial position, but I think for that is different because she serves at the, at the pleasure of the president. But this is Parliament. For me, the most important thing is after she has disrespected Parliament by not actually showing up, I think the decision should be very clear if she's not willing to step down.
Professor Abdullah, thank you so much for your time this morning. Professor David Abdullah, Senior Advisor, Africa Parliamentarian Network Against Corruption, also sub-judge, Member of Parliament for the Ningo Prampam constituency and Deputy Ranking Member on the Communications Committee of Parliament, and also I had the former Deputy Minister of Communications, George Anda, joining me as well, and together with Professors, that's Dr. Smart Sapong, the Kumasi Technical University Political Science lecturer and researcher as well. Thank you to you, Theo Ansa, Constituency Secretary, Dom Kwabena Constituency, NPP, and to you, our viewers as well. Many of you sending us messages. We appreciate all of that. And remember to grab Niche chocolate drink. Stay healthy. It's Holy Ghanaian chocolate. It is the taste of Ghana. On behalf of the rest of the team, we appreciate your company. Also on 3FM 92.7. My name is Alfred Okanse. Have a good weekend.